Yeah, how's everybody doing? Hope everybody is well. Welcome to the Local Musicians XP.
Yes, sir.
I'm your co-host. My name is Chris Burroughs. I'm a drummer percussionist living in the Atlanta area, and also with me is my brother and co-host, keyboardist extraordinaire Tyrone Jackson, soon to be Doctor Tyrone
Yes.
Jackson.
Thank you for
Yes.
that wonderful introduction, my
So I'm gonna
brother.
change. Yeah, you got to change your name, man. You
Gotta,
gotta put the DR before the.
gotta put it there, bro.
Hey, man, it's coming. It's
You're
coming.
making
So
me earn that bad boy, though, bro.
I'm sure. Hey, but it's gonna be well worth it, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Well
You're
worth it.
right. Yes.
So yeah. So my man is finishing his doctorate, and will soon have that title. So we are very proud of him for that achievement. You can find out more about us at our websites are tyronejackson.com, and my website is chrisburrowsdrums.com. Now, dude,
Yes.
tyronejackson.com. There are 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 Tyrone Jacksons in the world. How do you get that?
I know that because a lot of the Tyrone Jacksons are in jail. Let's just say that right now. So we don't have to worry about them.
But
But there's a Tyrone Jackson wealth manager. There's a Tyrone Jackson, a singer, and a Tyrone Jackson that's a boxer. So
you got a story about that, actually,
I
man.
do. And that's also a Tyrone Jackson that's a guitar player, a jazz guitar player.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, you all them cats was walking the streets when the web came
Right.
out, man. You
They
jumped
messed
on
up,
that.
man. I got
All
on
right.
it ahead of time.
All right. Cool. So between us, we have over 50 years professional music experience, including touring sessions, theater work, production,
Yeah.
arranging. We're both educators
Yes.
and take that very, very seriously. And we're both also band leaders,
Yes.
and we take that very seriously. But for the most part, we excel at being sidemen, and
Yes.
which hence the name local musicians. So that was tagged to us by
A
someone to be
certain
named
person.
later. And I'm like, let's run with it, local
Right.
musicians, man, because that's really what we do. That's how we make a living is as local musicians, independent contractors, which means we do club dates, weddings, corporate events, funerals, baby showers, AKA parties. If the price is right, we will be there. So,
And every
uh,
musician is local somewhere. So, hey.
exactly, and especially in this climate, you everybody's had to readjust uh, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and wear a lot of different hats. So with that, it's been a challenge, but we found a way to make a lot of headway in a small space, which is what a lot of cats have to do, and you have to wear many hats now. You can't just
That's right.
play most. You got to be you got to be in media. You got to teach. You've got to do X, Y, and Z. So
Yeah.
all we want to do is sort of just tell our story, tell some stories, explain some of the successes that we've had, some of the failures that we've also had,
Yeah.
because without failure there is no success, and that's just in anything. So it's taken a lot of hours and a lot of work to get this project off the ground. We've been at this
It's
for
gray
months.
hair. It's
Yeah,
gray hair and it's just coming.
it
'Cause
was
I like
totally
gray hair.
black. It was
It
totally
was.
black when we
It
started.
was. Yep.
So the learning curve is steep, but we've sort of now kind of gotten over the hill a little bit, and we're ready to share our story with the world. So
Yeah.
we'll just talk a little bit about, man. Just get off the ground. How was your week? Was there anything interesting that happened to you?
Well, as musicians, we always got something, like you said, multiple hats we have to wear. So,
Right, right.
started off with whatever gigs that we had, then work and preparing for the gigs, and then trying to set your schedule ahead of time. This is getting to the middle of the month, and most people don't know that you have to set your budget, your schedule at the beginning, and make everything stretch and work until you get to the next month where things start all over again. So
Right.
yeah, so that's what I was into. Doing that, preparing for gigs, and
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Well,
What have you been up to?
I was on an 8-day straight gig, just
Marathon?
marathon, which I'm very
Wow.
grateful for and blessed to have, and just really sometimes can't believe how much I'm working, but
Especially in the
like I said,
summer.
especially in the summer, but being able to just doing a lot of different things. So both of us play at the same church, which is the Riverdale United Methodist
First.
First.
Riverdale First United
Riverdale
Methodist.
First, that is correct.
Yes.
And so it kind of started there, and we actually have a new addition to
New minister.
we have a new minister. That's Minister Teddy, who just started last Sunday. So we're excited about that and seeing where
That could be a podcast too, adjusting to new leadership and stuff like that.
Yeah. And hey, we should have him on too, actually, at some point. So
That would
we'll
be
see
cool.
we'll see where that goes. But we have high hopes for that. And but something really did kind of funny happen, man. I was doing a gig this week. I'm not gonna say what day because it'll give it away. But I was doing a gig, and I had just set up on stage,
Okay.
and I was playing in kind of like a more of a rock band situation.
Yes.
And but I set up on stage. So I'm the only brother on stage, of course, right?
Right.
And this dude comes up to the stage, like real kind of excited, and he's well dressed. He had a suit and tie on,
Okay.
but the hair was from let's say somewhere in
70s?
the 1980s.
Oh, we got
Little
80s.
mullet, had a little mullet action going. So when he
Okay.
comes up to the front stage, he goes, "Hey, what bands have you played with?"
Okay.
And I'm like not even in that mode. I'm just like, what is this guy talk like? And I had just a blank. My whole mind was just blank because I'm looking
I'm
at
trying
this
to figure
guy
out
going,
where is he coming from with this? Like, what's
where is
going
he
on?
coming from? But then also I'm like, dude, from the looks of you ain't gonna know nobody that I played with. But I was like, and I mean that in a joking way. But he's like, "'Cause I think I've seen you somewhere, man. I've seen you somewhere." And the cat did look a little familiar. But I was just like, he goes, "But you just play with too many people to name, right?" And I was just like, I mean, yeah, I
Yes.
said not really, but then he drops the bomb, man. He
Okay,
goes,
what he said?
"Well, you don't see many black drummers."
OMG. You should have told me you play with dirt, air, and flame instead of earth, wind, and fire. See what it says.
And I was just like, okay, do I go there at this? I can't go there at this point because we're getting ready to start. There's a ton of people around. So I look at the cat and I go, actually, man, there's a lot of black drummers like that. But I think what he was saying was that there's
A lot
not
of black
many
drummers playing this music.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I had to kind of read between because he didn't come on, and he was just talking, and he was like, "Well, man, I know I've seen you, so blah 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 blah." But anyway, I just was like, "Wow," kind of taken aback by that. But I just
Well,
let
I
it
mean,
go, and it's
think
just,
about the reverse. If it was a white guy playing hip hop music, would a brother come up to the drummer and say, "Man, I don't see many white people playing hip hop"? I mean,
Well,
would it? Or soul or funk or what have you, even though there's a lot,
yeah. I mean, it could happen. I didn't take it as a malicious. He
What
didn't
if it was
come off.
bluegrass? If it was bluegrass and he said it, what do you think about that?
I would have probably said, "Yeah, you're right, man." Yeah, you're right.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was just that was kind of interesting.
So,
But
man,
anyway, yeah,
you and I both play these sessions, and I've seen like I'm playing them more now. I don't know why this summer, but jam sessions, bruh.
yeah. Which leads us into our topic of this particular podcast
Yes,
is
sir.
the jam session.
Yeah.
And the jam session has almost, I don't want to say it's taken over the
Oh,
scene, but
yes.
it is heavily populated the scene. And I think that's kind of everywhere, because club owners or restaurant owners or
Hmm.
whatever business you want to put in that category, uh, are desperate to bring people into their place.
Right.
So the jam session has replaced gigs for a lot of people. There used to be what? Okay, so you'd have like a jazz jam session once a week. You would have a
Right.
blues session once a week.
Right.
You would have an R&B, or funk kind of session once a week. And you may
Right.
have a couple, I'm guesstimating there. There could be a couple of blues or a couple of jazz or whatever, but for the most part, you're talking about 20, 30 years ago, there was really kind of one session and everybody ended up at that session.
Right.
Now you've got like in Atlanta. So we live in Atlanta. We have 5 jazz jam sessions,
More than that. Monday,
right?
2 on Monday.
Okay, so
That's
2
two.
on Monday. Okay,
Yeah. Wednesday.
right. Thursday,
3 on Thursday. 3 on
3 on
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yes.
What's the 3?
You got Alpharetta location.
Correct.
You got Edgewood and Boulevard, the High Tower.
Right.
One,
And
and you also got Trent's. The jam session is
oh,
on
that's
Thursday.
right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's a new one. So you got
Yeah.
three on Thursday,
Right.
and
There's a
then
Sunday Gallery 992. There's a jam session on
right,
Sundays.
right, which is kind of a different vibe,
Right.
right? With I think it's more like a free kind of open
Yeah.
vibe, but that's cool.
It used to be Cafe 290 used to have a jam session on
On
Sunday too.
Sundays, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
So we
So,
got what 7 right now in the
man,
week.
that's insane.
Yes.
But in those sessions, and if you look at the locations of those sessions, most of them are at places that serve food and drink. So,
Yes.
uh, as I was saying before, that's kind of replaced a lot of the gigs. I mean, I played the session with the great Joe Granston on Mondays at Napoleon's, which has had 3 different locations. It was at
Mhm.
Twain's. It started at Twain's, and then it
Yeah.
moved to Venkman's, and then
Right.
now it's moved to Napoleon's, and that's a great session. The Wednesday at the Red Light, which is the one that you're on
Right.
all the time, and sometimes you're on the one on Monday as well.
Right.
But so we're doing a lot of the professionals are now on these sessions,
Mhm.
and I guess my question is when we look at the origins of the jam session and what the jam session was originally made for, or born for,
Mhm.
was for the top level cats to get together and play, because a lot of times if you're working, a lot of cats you don't get to play with a lot of times, so it's an opportunity to get 5 or 6 of the baddest drummers, 5 or 6 of the baddest piano players, all everybody come together. We just gonna play some tunes, have a good time. But also it was a checklist. It was like, I'm gonna see what this cat's been working on. I want to see what he's
Yeah.
been doing. I want to see where he is. I heard him 6 months ago. I want to see if he's any better now. I want to check him out. So it was really sort of a a thing to really kind of, you kind of had to keep your thing up because you want to be respected amongst your peers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was imperative that if you came to the session, you would definitely better be straight with it. So
Well,
the origins. Oh, go ahead.
some of it goes back even farther than that, and it's like deeper because some reporters say that it was a chance for white and black musicians to play together when they didn't have a chance to play
Oh,
jazz.
check
That
that out.
in the
Check that out.
1920s,
Check
and
that out.
then Minton's a writer talks about Minton's how it was like you said an area that people can congregate and be able to show what they're working on. And others talk about how the jam session was when you go hear a killing cat at a club and you don't have YouTube or all these other recording devices, that you run to the jam session to try out what you heard. Like if you heard Charlie Parker, which he was doing something new, you go and it's like, oh, let me try while it's fresh to emulate what's going on. And the great thing about that concept is that you didn't have an exactness. You didn't have, a perfect recollection of what happened, what went on. So you would go in and work out at a jam session something that might not be like what Charlie Parker played, but you may form your own style based off of what you heard and what you
heard. Right.
Yeah.
It's not about recording, learning verbatim, or
they didn't have the technology to do that. Yeah.
Right. And really it's about being inspired in the moment of man, this cat is, man, he's on another level. I don't even want to play tonight. I just want to check. I'm just going to sit back and check this out because there's something different going on. So, well, it's interesting that you say I never knew that about getting white and black musicians together, which is a really interesting statement that you made. And is there any, I mean, where is there an area where is that the South? Is that everywhere? Is that where did that actually happen?
They said it was with, and I can't remember the researcher who said it, but it was Paul Whiteman's or Whitman's. I don't know how you want to pronounce that band, but his band was totally segregated. But even in the North, those bands wouldn't get together, and it was frowned upon, for them to be together. But this is 1920s we're talking about,
Right.
And conceptually, that's like big band era stuff. So you wouldn't see musicians coming together. You even look at what's the clarinet, Benny Goodman. He didn't really take off until Chick Webb was in the band, and so he was one of the first bands to integrate, but they couldn't tour all over the South, especially with Benny Goodman being a Jewish guy as well, so you had all those stigmas attached to it. But that was very important that would be part of it. The lineage is at those jam sessions, and I don't know how true this is, but it says that Bing Crosby attended some of the sessions and would clap on beat 1 and 3. So they say that he was jamming the beat. That was one kind of start to the jam session as well, or reporting of the jam session, because I'm sure a lot of the jam sessions happened before people started reporting that these things were really happening.
Right.
Especially if it was a racial reconciliation kind of thing, you couldn't let people know. It would almost be like a secretive, like a speakeasy, because you couldn't let any people know that black people and white people were together playing. So,
Right. Well, and that's interesting because there were also sessions that were closed, right? That based more on what? Skill.
Right, definitely.
And you were not, I mean, maybe you could get in, but you weren't going to play, right?
Right. And if you had close friends that weren't musicians, maybe they were privy to being there, but they knew that they weren't there to make requests, to do those things. They were coming in to look at this like aquarium experience. I'm looking in to the culture or to this rare sighting that most people don't have a privilege to be a part of.
Right. And again, and we're just talking about the origin of the session and how it used to be set up in a couple of different ways. Of course, it's completely different now. But I think when I moved here into Atlanta, which was 1991 or 92, and man, it took me years to get up to just to get the confidence up to even go to one of these sessions. And I can remember just being in my practice room, and I would just practice, and sometimes I'd be like, man, I'm going tonight, or I'm going on Thursday, I'm going on Wednesday. Wednesday would come and be like, I ain't going.
Right.
Just because I didn't have that confidence of man, getting up on, I mean, playing on somebody else's equipment is already a challenge, but then also just the unknown of what you're going to play, who you're going to play. But later, as I sort of got that, I guess I got the confidence up. One of the most positive things about going to a session is the networking, and you're meeting other musicians. Not everybody was friendly. Not everybody was cool. A lot of times, you're solely based on your skill level, which is, it's not cool. I mean, I find myself sometimes falling into that trap of
you can't really
is this guy
your
good
skill
enough?
level too. You
Say it
can't
again.
at the first part of the jam session or first time going out. You really can't really prove your skill level if people don't know who you are, because you're going to sign a list. And the jam sessions I went to, if a person didn't know me, or if a person knew somebody else, that would trump my position on the list. They would call that person up, especially on the good songs, right?
Truth.
And so it would take a while before somebody would be able to see what your skill is to even put you in a category to play some of the good songs,
Right, because I used to get thrown ballads when I showed up.
That's the death sentence for a drummer, right? Like, how do you show your skills as a band? I mean, they're now older. I can see how you could, but
but you
in
don't have the unless you're just boy genius and you're a young cat.
Right.
That's not even entering your mind. Is
Right.
I got to pull out a pair of brushes and play behind a vocalist or something like that
And
play a
enjoy
ballad.
it. And enjoy it.
But even though there is obviously a lot of skill to that, we're not saying
Right.
there's no skill. But when you're young, you're looking to show
Chops.
you want that up tempo. You want something
Right.
mid to up, or if you're on a funk thing, you want something like Chameleon or
Right.
something that's got some hits where you can you're going to solo over it and everybody's going to see what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
but there is something to wait your turn. And I don't think
Yes.
there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's just
No.
like in sports, nobody wants to wait anymore. It's like if these kids don't play immediately, and especially in college, they're going to transfer somewhere, go somewhere else. You can't learn anything by always being at the front of the pack. You have to sit behind somebody at some point and see how things are done. That is, I would say, really the most important thing about development is let me see somebody else that's already been through it and I can learn from this person and see how they play, right? And that's in anything, but it's like nobody wants to wait anymore. Everybody wants to jump. Oh, I got to show. Oh, I got to, posting video on social media. Man, why are you posting video? Man, you can't even play.
But you made a great point. If you're coming to a jam session simply to play, you're missing out on everything else that you could be learning.
Right.
You could learn repertoire, what tunes you can take a notepad, write down all the tunes that cats are playing, right? You could network, like you said, but you could also listen to the cats, how they're playing and how they're playing on a song, or like you say, if they're playing brushes, well, how are they making that happen? How is the piano player competent behind it? Make a point to go take a lesson with somebody if you meet them at the jam session. It's like, how do you approach this? They may even give you a deal. They might be like, hey, man, just come to the crib, blah, blah, blah. I'll show you some stuff or what have you,
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, the impetus for a jam session is not normally or always just about playing and showing what you can do,
Right.
but you have to wait your turn too. I mean, I play with Neil Starkey, and when some people call a tune, there are changes that he knows that I'm not privileged to because he lived in the era. He was playing music in the 60s,
Right.
And I'm like, there's changes that I listen to him play that's not in what I'm used to playing. And I have to respect that, but I can only learn it by playing with that cat, or listening to that cat or seeing what's
Right.
going on. So jam sessions, everybody wants to come in itching to play and sign a list. And why have you called my name? I'm supposed to be next. I'm supposed to be playing up this. Oh man, somebody else played Summertime already. I wanted to play Summertime.
Right. Right.
It's not all
Right.
about that.
Right. There's so much value in just listening and checking things out,
Yeah.
especially if you have musicians there that are on a high level. There's so many great things that, and like I said, not everybody. Maybe some cats aren't going to be the friendliest or whatever. Some guys just they're not very socially they're just not, that's not their thing, is being friends with everybody and talking and all that kind of stuff. But there's still things that you can learn when you hear them play, and that can be beautiful just within itself. You don't have to, not everybody's going to be your friend and be buddy buddy. Most people today are, but when we were going through it, man, it was hard to get conversation out of a lot of cats, based a lot of times on if you a young dude, and especially if you were kind of a talented young dude, they were viewing you like you was coming to steal food off their table, and they weren't going to show you. But
Right.
the beauty of that is that if you're there and you watch them play, you can learn a lot of stuff about what's going on. So, all right, cool. So, go ahead. You got something else to add?
No, I was going to say that's a perfect segue into you. We talked about the origin of jam sessions, but what is a jam session now? What is that like?
Well, now you have a couple of things, a couple of very complex matters that you have to somehow deal with. And like I said, we have a great friend and a cat that we work with a lot, that hired us a lot, Joe Granston, who does the best job of anyone I've ever seen.
He remembers everybody's name
at a session.
He doesn't have to write anything down.
It doesn't even make sense how good. But again, he's able to kind of take his ego out of the situation, and he tries to get everybody a shot, man. And not only that, but cater to what the strength is of that person. Right. I've never seen anything like it. It's incredible to watch. And nowadays, I think that's kind of what you kind of have to do, because the session is no longer about the really high, because the high level cats aren't going to come out because they know they're going to have to wait because there's so many people there, right?
Wait, let's be real though. I'm gonna be real honest.
All right. Okay.
Musicians do not buy food, do not buy drinks. They do not do the financial end of it. So what ends up happening is you got to cater to a consuming public, which means, like you said, it's going to be at a restaurant, buy food. It's going to be buying drinks. It's going to be, the restaurant is there or the club is there to make money, right? And what they're hoping is that this jam session is going to garner up enough crowd to sustain the business. It's not like the old school where Mittens knew that after hours the cats was coming and they was going to serve a couple of drinks. They probably wasn't going to feed them, anything like that, but they were doing a service as well. And the people in the audience was there to just take a look at what's going on. But nowadays it's the opposite. You have to cater to the audience because the musicians are not buying things. How many times at Twain's that was riddled with musicians, and
Right.
they holding up tables. The waiters are and waitresses are only making tips, basically, right? How are they
Right.
going to make their money if you're occupying a table for 3 hours?
It's a great,
Come on, man.
great point, man. That's a great point. And that's something that a lot of people do not take into account at all. You know,
Right.
the famous session in New York at Smalls, which, you know, I know they have the after hours session, and then
Mhm.
I think they have a session, an earlier session or something, but I don't know.
Mhm.
But that has sort of become a thing to do. So people are
Right.
coming out, you know, not only musicians, but you have, you know, tourists and a bunch of different people that are coming to hang, pay the cover charge, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. Here in Atlanta, or if you're in another city that, you know, doesn't have that sort of New York or that culture of known for jazz, when they set up a session, the business is setting it up so they can try to make some money, you know?
Right. Right.
And which does that dilute the musician side of things? Sometimes it does,
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't. You know, it
Yes.
really depends. I think sometimes it depends on a couple things. I'm gonna let you take it from here, but it depends on a couple things. I think that if the house band is on point, a lot of times musicians, the cats will come out because they know that the house band is you know, is
Yeah.
going to be cool sometimes, right? Now, sometimes they won't, but I think that's a start. If you got the house band right, other musicians are going to come. But if you know, well, I'll let you take it. I'll let you go ahead because I know you got something
I mean, so
something to say.
there's so many variations of these jam sessions. I mean, they all are alike, but it's basically kind of like you said with Joe, is how do you navigate that and what is your audience? There's another jam session that the particular person who leads this jam session doesn't really cater to singers. So guess what? Most singers know not to go to that jam session,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have more instrumentalists. So of course
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get a lot of maybe students that will have an opportunity to play tunes, opposed to the Monday night jam session where it's very, very, very vocalist friendly, right?
Right. Right.
And then you have a Thursday night jam session that is in a certain area of town that is um, um, urban, right? And
Okay.
so if it's urban, you're going to attract a more urban community, which I've seen more black people at this jam session than I've knew what musicians were in Atlanta, you know.
Right.
And shout
Right.
out to Tony and Terrence Harper who are trying to keep it a jazz thing. We know that when they say jazz in urban communities or black communities, that's a whole spectrum of other things, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
Don't open the box tonight. Don't open.
right? No, I can't. I
Don't
can't. But I'm
open
just saying that's a
it.
that's a jazz jam session that's primarily different. So the audiences change based on who's running the jam session, where it's located, and like you said, how does the club make money in those situations? So you all have to figure out and the Velvet Note jam session on Thursday is in Alpharetta. How many straight ahead jazz players is going to make it up there from Atlanta that's really killing cats to go to that jam session? So what you end up doing is having people from that area that there's some good musicians up there,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not going to get I'm not going to travel from my house all the way up to that to Alpharetta on a Thursday. So
Right.
I won't be able to get there. Maybe once in a blue moon if I'm feeling froggy, whatever. So you got to think about the audience and location. All those factors come into mind.
Well, location is big,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Location is definitely big. Is it easy to park? Is it
Oh yeah, yeah,
you know, do they have good food? Is, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of just talking about what is the session now,
yeah.
how do you know, what do you think are some of the key reasons that, we've talked about the financial end of having, of clubs and stuff, instead of hiring a band that, you have no idea if they're going to bring their people, if people are going to come out for that or not.
Right.
They get the session. That way they know a lot of people from different walks of life are going to come out. But the draw is still going, the main draw that has sort of taken over a lot of these sessions is that anyone can come off the street now and get a slot and get a shot at a jam session, which leads us sort of into, should we even call it a jam session anymore? Is it a jam session or is it an open mic? Because that, to me, those are two different things.
Yeah, you're right. It might be live band karaoke.
That's another way to put it.
Yeah, but open mic is just what it is. And the reason why I say karaoke is because like people are selecting, hey, do you know this Frank Sinatra song or blah blah blah? And
right.
And that's not the original intent of a jam session, but you're right. That's what it's become now. And maybe we shouldn't call it a jam session anymore. Or maybe like a lot of things, words have changed in meaning,
Right.
So,
because I remember back in the day, I remember hearing about open mic night.
Right.
Which is what places used to, it could be a pub, it could be wherever, but they would have open mic night, which means anyone can come in, try to sing a song or try to play or whatever. The jam session, I guess it also depends on the style of music you're talking about. We're more talking about jazz jam session etiquette, right? Or just, blues is, I've heard stories. I think I've been to a blues session one time. Will never, ever, ever go back.
R&B jam sessions?
The R&B sessions, which, we used to go to. There used to be a place called Yin Yang that was here, that was hot, or Apache, Cafe 290. Similar situation, where, it's like it might take you a second to get kind of find a slot in those places, so to speak, because if they don't know you, they don't know you. Right now, you get up there, you play, whatever. Everything is kind of based on that. But there's only in Atlanta. There's only, well, I guess is there one or two sessions now, because Al
what
Smith
type of music? Yeah, Al's
Cat's
Cafe.
Yeah. And that's on a Thursday. I don't know if he has another. I think his session he's in the same, because he's had to move it. Remember, he was like Venkman's, after Venkman's closed, I think he tried to move it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But that one I know attracts a lot of singers also, just like we do on Mondays.
Yeah.
But the differences between an R&B session and a jazz session, it would be interesting to have some guys on to just sort of talk about those differences.
And I think they're dealing with some of the same issues we're dealing with too. I would suspect that they have to cater to the audience now, whereas before they didn't have to. So, and they got frustrated cats in the band too.
No question. So, yeah, because everything is for entertainment purposes now.
Right.
It's hard to make it's hard to make money off of I was going to say education, or educating or doing the right thing sometimes. It's all about entertainment purposes, and social media really rules everything. And that's a whole nother subject that we'll talk about. But people that come in, the one thing, I guess, just as a pet peeve that I always, that I do, see in terms of we're talking about, the jam session versus the open mic. If you treat it like an open mic, and I'm talking about actually not who's ever running the session, but the people that are coming from the audience to sing,
Right.
take it seriously. Like, I mean, I don't know why you would want to show yourself in not your best form. I'll just put it like that.
I don't think they know. I don't think they know they're not doing their best. I think they're just doing whatever, They're
Well,
not really
doing what I
watching
mean,
and
but
learning.
and so well, that I mean, where does doing whatever? Where does that get you? Like,
I don't know
I don't.
because we were on a jam session together, and I don't think you were playing. I was playing, but this lady comes up and she says, "Hey, everybody! I've never done this before, but I'm looking forward to it. Now, can you give me my key on the microphone?" And I'm like, "Lady, take your mouth away from the microphone." She's like, "I don't even know my key." And then she's trying to sing, and she's like, "Can you give me my key?" And I'm like, OMG. You haven't been watching from the professionals how to do this? Stop telling the audience everything. I ate sardines for breakfast this morning. I don't know. I don't want to know that. Man, too much information. I got a crook in my neck right now, and that's why I'm singing off to the side right now. No. Please, sing a song. Get on. Come back in at the bridge. It's a long song. I can't take it. Horn players. Oh, here's another pet peeve. We've got to talk about this. This has got to be a part 2. Okay. Don't take 20 choruses of a solo.
Well, we're gonna have to. Yeah, we'll talk.
I'm sorry, I've been triggered, bro. I've been triggered. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Move on. Let's move on. What you got next?
I feel you, man. I feel you. So, well, I guess that could lead into really just our experiences, man. Like, I've had really good experiences, and I've had some really bad experiences, and I'll show you. I will tell this story.
Yeah,
I've told you and some other people who are close to me this story. But there was a session at Churchill Grounds. Churchill Grounds used to be the jazz club in Atlanta.
Right.
I hadn't really been playing what we call straight ahead jazz very long. Most
right.
of the years but I became obsessed with learning the art form and wanting to get better, and it was such a challenge, and it was such a beautiful thing. It was almost kind of like I had kind of found myself in a way through working on straight ahead, through working on jazz music. So, but anyway, at this particular time, I was kind of, for some reason, I was feeling myself, man. I was like, I got this. I think I had just had a good gig with somebody, and it was, it was lightning in a bottle. You catch lightning in a bottle, right? Everything is working. Your ideas are coming. Blah 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 blah. So they're doing the jam session for the Atlanta Jazz Festival is in town. So there's nothing but heavy cats at this particular session. So I get called up. Man, I mean, this is a painful experience, but it paid off. I get called up. At the time, I didn't know who any of these guys were really, but I remember who they were after, because I seeing their face, and then later going, what, this cat? So on piano was the great Robert Glasper. This is before he was where he is now. He was playing with Abby Lincoln, at the time. Bass, I think Curtis was on bass. Curtis Lundy, great upright player. Curtis Lundy was on bass. But anyway, some of the rest was a blank. Russell Gunn was leading the session, our great friend and Russell was leading the session, but they called a tune that I did not know. Okay. And the tune is called Alone Together. And this is a tune that if you don't know it, you really don't know it, because the form is not a standard 32 bar form. Yeah. So a lot of times when you're playing standards, for those that just don't don't know, it's like a lot of the forms are the same. So it doesn't really matter what's going on as a drummer with the chords.
It's going to be 4 to 8 measures, whatever, and it's going to feel that
everything
way,
is going to be in 4s and 8s. You heard, and once you hear it go around, you kind of understand.
Right.
Typical form, A B A. So, Alone Together has a little surprise for you, though, if you don't know. So, and the cats that know this tune know exactly what I'm talking about.
And a lot of drummers caught a lot of smoke off of this one song.
And, a lot of you've seen it. You've seen this happen to cats. Yeah. So it has an extra 2 bars. So when you think the form is starting over, oh no, it's still going. So every time that you think you're hearing you're getting further and further and further behind in the form. So I get up there, man. I mean, started okay because I could play the first 32 bars pretty good.
Right.
I'm turning around in that 32 bar form every time.
Or should we say 30 bar form?
30 bars. So all of a sudden I'm look up and it's like, it just looks like somebody has died, basically. Because I'm nowhere near where everybody else is. So the song ends, and most of the time, even if somebody crashes bad,
right?
You're gonna get a little sympathy clap. People gonna clap for you, whatever. When that music stopped, it was nothing but silence.
Your head gets hot, bro. You was like, oh no.
And I felt about this big. And of course, did I get another song? Heck no, I ain't getting no other song.
No. You got a handshake. Hey!
My man at the Apollo that come out,
Sandman
came out, man, got me off, bro. So here's where it gets really interesting. There's
more to this story? Oh wow.
Oh yeah, okay. There's a lot more actually.
Okay.
And this is what's really cool about this story is I go and sit down at the table with a good friend and great musician.
Okay.
And they go, "You didn't know that song, did you?" And I said, "No." And they're like, "Yeah, because it has an extra." They're trying to explain it to me actually.
Right.
And I can't hear anything at this point. I'm just like, I'm so befuddled and like embarrassed and just down that I'm hearing what they're saying, but I'm not hearing what they're saying. So they're like, "Dude, that has an extra 2 bars." And I go, "Extra 2 bars? What do you mean?" I didn't know that a form could be different like that, right? In terms of jazz, right? So they talk to me and they're like, "Man, it's no big deal. I mean, you just got to learn the songs."
Yeah.
Russell comes over to me and says the same thing. He says, "Hey, man, if you don't know something, just say you don't know it. It's no big deal. We'll find something that we can all play. It's not a big deal. Just say you don't know it."
Right.
Oh, man, okay. I walk out to the other, Churchill has two parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the music was, and then it has kind of the bar area in the front. I walk out to the bar area, man. I'm just kind of standing there by myself. Robert Glasper comes out.
Okay.
It's like, "Hey, man," I said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "It's no big deal." He said, "You sound good, actually." He said, "You just got to learn the songs."
Right.
Man, same thing. Bass player said the exact same thing, man. It's like, man, you just got to learn the songs. So don't worry,
Nice.
you know. So your swing sounds good. You just got to learn the songs.
Right.
So what did I do when I went home that night?
Shared that
I
song. Listen to it.
I listened to it. I pulled up every recording I could find. I
Uh-huh.
listened to that song, and I said, "This will never happen to me again." This is
Right.
like, man, this is probably 20 years ago. And I can sit here and I can say that, yeah, there have been songs that I may not know. But first of all, if it's something that I don't, I'm gonna say, "Hey, man, I don't. What is that? I don't know it." And then they'll
Right.
tell you, "Man, it's just the blues, or it's just whatever," or
Right. Right.
you're
Right.
like, "Okay, cool." But I said to myself, I will never get caught in that situation ever again.
Right.
And but the fact that they were cool, they didn't vibe me, they didn't not talk to me, they didn't treat me like, which on another scene that would not have happened,
Right. Right. Right.
you
But
know.
isn't that what the jam session should be? That you're getting this
Absolutely, that's what
dissemination of
it's
knowledge from cats who know something, and that you can take
right,
it and be better
right.
from it.
And you should feel, yeah, I mean, if you listen, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake or not knowing something, or
Right.
the thing that you have to do is you have to own up to that,
Right. Right.
and you have to atone for that, and you
Right.
have to, you know what, man, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna work on my stuff, wait till these cats see me in 3 months.
Right. You can't get in your feelings about it. You
Don't
have to
get in your
look at it.
feelings, or not have any feelings about it,
That's
and
true
just
too. Yeah. Get
whatever.
some moxie. Have some moxie. Like, man, I'm
Everything
gonna
is
get
about
this jump.
whatever now. It's
Right.
about
Right.
whatever. You get claps, you get trophies, you get whatever for nothing, for not being for not being held accountable. So it's like
Yeah.
it's up to the individual to hold yourself accountable and know that, hey, okay, I have a lot of work to do, and then go home
Right.
and do the work. That's all I think a lot of us want
Yeah.
to see from other people, is go do
Yeah.
your work. Go do your work. Uh have have some feeling and some emotion about not sounding good. you know
Yes.
I just
And
sometimes
then as
it's
actually
crazy
throw it
to me.
away too, so you don't be so hard on yourself. You have to have that right balance to say, okay, I messed up, but I'm not gonna let that just stop me or make me freeze up. At the same
Right,
time, have enough moxie to say, man, I can do this kind of thing.
right. I mean,
But
you have some because you told me a story one time about maybe something, and not necessarily something, but something on that same level that happened to you.
yeah, so when I first moved to Atlanta, I moved from New Orleans, and I was already playing and left a lot of gigs behind, and so my mindset coming to Atlanta was like, if only somebody could hear me play, then I could just break in on the scene, right? So look up some jam sessions, and I think I came in on a Thursday or Friday. So found a jam session, was at Cafe 290, a jazz jam session on Sunday nights. I think it was
Hmm.
Bill Norman or Bob Newman, one of them, the BNs. I can't remember which one. So I think it was Bill Norman. It wasn't a drummer spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bill. Yeah. Yeah.
So I go there, man. Nobody knows me. I get there early. That was probably a bad sign too. So I get there early. I sign the list. I'm like the first one up on the list, right?
Right.
I order me some food, eating some food. I'm there by myself, and we go through the whole night, and my name does not get called. I'm looking at different cats coming in. I'm like, okay, but I'm not paying attention to them because I'm waiting for my time to shine, right?
Right.
So I get there, they call me up on a song that I detested. The name of the song is All of Me. And then we had a singer that decided to sing the song so slow. They're like, all of me. Why not take? I was like, oh, this is horrible, right? So I played a song, and you know how you're thinking about 100,000 things, and so I turned to the bass player next to me, man, and I'm like, I can't stand this song, man. This is a horrible song. I wish we could play it on something that I could showcase myself, like Footprints, blah blah blah, right?
Right.
And he says it's only a horrible song because you can't play it.
Ooh.
I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you can't play the song. That's why you think it's a horrible song. And I was like, but the changes don't do anything. It's like, because you don't know how to play it. And I was like, dang. So I went home, and on the way home, I was angry that this cat told me this. But then I thought about it. I was like, yeah, my solo sucked on this. I was like, I can't play this song. I was like, you know what? I can't also do? I can't play in a major key. All these minor songs like Footprints, I can play, but these happy songs,
right,
I can't play them
because you hadn't worked on it.
I had not worked on it. I didn't think. I thought all my little chops and runs and licks that I had didn't work on this. And this is the first chord of it, if you're playing the key of C, is C, and then it's an E7, which has nothing to do with C, right? So I thought it was whack, but really E points to the next chord, which is A7. It's all these dominant chords, and you're like, how can I make that sound good? And then I heard somebody play it, and they played these different ways of playing. I was like, whoa, that sounds good. This is not really a whack song, Right. But I had to look at myself first and say, man, the guy was right. I can't play over this song. I am kind of sad, So I was like, and I had gigs way before this. I was playing New Orleans, but it took that instance for me to realize a weakness and a shortcoming that I had in my playing that I had to work with. And then playing behind singers, most instrumentalists don't want to play behind singers, but guess what? Ellis Marcellus, he was my teacher. He put me in his vocal combo one time, right? And I was getting good. That was like the death sentence. Nobody wanted to be in a vocal combo. And I stormed into Ellis's office. I said, man, I thought I sounded good for the auditions. Why am I in this vocal combo? He said, Jackson, close the door, right? And he rarely ever yelled or anything. He's like, Jackson, close the door. I said, oh, snap. He's like, I put you in that vocal combo for 3 reasons. He said, first of all, you're going to develop skills like learning how to play in different keys and learn how to do intros and endings and learning how to play behind a singer that you wouldn't be privileged to, that you're going to develop the skill set. So the other thing is vocalist gigs pay more money than instrumentalist gigs. So you're going to be able to make more money with a vocalist than you are with a horn player. And he said his third thing is there are 7 vocalists in that combo. Who do you think they're going to call for a gig or for even their jury or their exam? They're going to call you because you're going to know all their repertoire. And I was like, oh, snap.
Wow.
And sure enough, I learned in that situation how to play behind a vocalist, how to set up a vocalist, what they're listening for, how to put the melody note in my top voicing of my finger so they can hear it clearly. And there's a lot of great piano players in this town that cannot play behind a vocalist.
Right.
And I get called all the time.
A lot of musicians.
Yes, a lot of musicians.
Period. I was one of them.
Right. Now you are heavily requested by the vocalist.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the vocalist, but yeah, I'm more requested now. But there was a time I was playing too loud.
Right.
I wasn't respecting the volume of, the singer. I mean, especially if it's a singer that, maybe they're not a belter, they're not a power. Vocal. Most of the stuff that they do is more bossa nova or ballads or soft swing stuff or whatever. It's like I was playing the same way that I would play behind anything else.
Right.
And you have to lose you have to lose those gigs,
right,
in order to learn how to do them. And learn and figure out why. But that's a whole nother conversation. But those are.
Had I not gone to that jam session, I would not have learned that valuable lesson.
Right. Absolutely.
Because you can play any song and still shine, but we think it has to be, and that goes to, you got to wait your turn, because you can never play giant steps without playing a ballad and enjoying it on the jam session for the person to say, hey man, keep coming back. That's what if you had a bad attitude, they wouldn't even invite you back to the jam session, you know?
That's right. That's
Or
right.
if you look like, man, next time call me up on a good tune. They'd be like, man, who are you? Who is this guy? You know,
Right. Right.
call me up on a good tune.
I've witnessed similar things similar to that.
Right.
Guys getting upset about, either, what song was called, or, it's like, man, I mean, whatever. I mean, we don't see them anymore, and I never
No.
seen them since, because
But everything is an audition. Chris, you can't do every gig. You're in high demand. So people are going to call you for a gig and you can't do it. And then they're going to say, well, man, can you recommend somebody?
Right.
So I can't trust you. You first show up at a jam session. How do I know what your work ethic is? Whatever.
Right.
So I can't try you out on a big time gig for me. I have to get you to sub for me on a gig so I can monitor who I'm getting the sub, or I can check you out and see how you're doing. So a jam session is an audition in itself for other things.
Right.
You know,
it has a lot of values, which brings me to our last and final point. We're going to wrap this up, but has it been a positive or a negative on the music community? That's a sort of a double-edged sword, because I feel like I know I benefited from being able to have a session a week. I'm not talking about just in terms of getting paid, but also just keeping my chops up in a certain genre.
right.
That, if you don't get a chance to do something very, that you maybe would love to do, but you just don't get a chance to do it anymore. You get an opportunity to do that particular session. Why not take it? That's what I did.
Yeah.
At least it gives me once a week doing something that I love, even though I might only get to play a couple of songs with, with the Bad Cats. But hey, that's a learning experience also, is supporting other people, supporting people that maybe they're not on your level, but somewhere along the line, somebody supported you, man. Somebody supported you and had your back when you didn't know it and when you were playing.
Right.
So that's something that I feel like is important to do, is to support somebody else that maybe doesn't have it at this particular time, but maybe 5-10 years down the line, they will have it based on the fact that they got the proper support. So that's one reason why I still participate in the session that I do with Joe on Mondays at Napoleon's,
Right.
What would you say in terms of positive and negatives for you?
Man, it's a two-edged sword, because at this point, and I hate talking about myself, but I'm rather experienced. I know a lot of songs, what have you. So I'm getting called to play a lot of these jam sessions, but the jam sessions are occupying a lot of places that could have bands or different bands playing each night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that minimizes the opportunities for musicians to play and have their own sound. Like, one thing about Churchill, every musician who had a band and had a particular sound could come in there and play and book time. Sam Yee was good about having that set up for the local musicians who had a vibe, their own vibe. And I could play in your band and it was Afro sounds, and you knew that you were going to get jazz, but it was going to be a different perspective. And when you were playing in my band, it was a different thing. And we played with Mace or Russell Gunn or all these other, there was a trio gig on Wednesday nights at Churchill, was Trio Love, which was Justin Shaw and somebody else. I can't remember. Oh, Akeem. So that was a conceptual band, but where's that band now? Where are they playing at? There's nowhere for them to play. So you can have a concept and a conceptual band that could go and play some things, and cats will come out and check them out. And eventually, during the last set, maybe a jam session would ensue of the Killing Cats that was in the audience. We'd say, hey, man, I see Melvin Jones in the audience. Melvin had a group too. Melvin had a killing group that was his own sound, and if you come to that, a little jam session might break out because of invitation to come to the band stage.
Right.
So I think that's the negative aspect of it. The positive is that it should be that the students at these universities, Kennesaw, where I teach at, and Georgia State, and Georgia Tech, and Emory has like jazz people in it too. These students should be just chomping at the bit to get into all these sessions and gaining so much experience. But the ones that we see show up, we can count on our fingers and see that they're getting better. There used to be Brandon and Patrick Arthur, Brandon Boone and Patrick Arthur. Man, I had a jam session at Sam Ash Music, and I told those cats, I said, there will be no money in it for y'all. But I said, what you will be able to gain from me and Chris being there, you're going to learn lessons that you would never learn anywhere. It's going to would cost you a lot of money. Right. And to their credit, those cats showed up every Sunday and played. And you can ask them, it fast tracked them into playing this music and playing a lot of music.
Right.
And some of the lessons I've had from playing with guys, I should have paid money for. I got free lessons from older guys, just giving me the ropes, stuff that wasn't in books, stuff that, talking about the philosophy of a bass player and the drummer or keyboard player, what he's supposed to do playing this behind a horn player. My guy told me one time, man, you play the same way behind me that you did Marcus, this trumpet player. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, me and Marcus don't play anything alike. He's like, Marcus sounds like Chet Baker, and I sound like John Coltrane, yet you play the same thing. I was like, dang. Wow. He's like, so if you're gonna listen to John Coltrane, you gotta listen to McCoy Tyner. Right. If you're gonna listen to Miles Davis, you better listen to Wynton Kelly. Right. So all those different things I got from a person telling me the right thing rather than say, hey man, you sound good, now take a seat. There's no learning in that. So right. If these cats would come out to the jam sessions and be a part of it, that would be a positive. And then, the community would grow from there,
Right. Right. Well, those are all great points, and hopefully we've inspired some people to think about this subject. We are working on getting the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, where that's all in the works and should be up shortly. YouTube, obviously. So drop your comments. What do you guys think? And, whatever town you're in, we're based here in Atlanta, but we want to hear what the sessions are like where you're from, whether it's Chicago or Idaho,
NOLA, baby, NOLA,
New Orleans, wherever. Talk about, and trying to build a community of us that can, because we're all dealing with the same situations now, and everybody's sort of in the same boat as far as trying to work and just pay the rent. And however we can do that is however we can do that. So, and the jam session has become a part of what a lot of us have to do at this time. And we'd love to hear what you guys are thinking about that. So,
well, we need a part 2 on this, right? Jam sessions part 2.
We could do a part 2. I would like to do a part 2. Maybe we'll bring on some cats, some other guys to talk about their experiences. So guys who run jam sessions would be great. So we'll try to make that happen and do a part 2. But until that time, like I said, subscribe to us on YouTube. We'll be on Spotify and iTunes here shortly. Also, our Facebook page should be up, and we'll be sharing the podcast also through that. So thank you for joining us on Local Musicians XP. My name is Chris Burroughs.
Tyrone Jackson.
And we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.